Hey Libra, this is your 2025 forecast. I'm going to go through all of this, the major transits of the year and how they're going to affect your chart. Obviously, getting a personal reading related to your personal natal chart is the most accurate way to understand what really is going to go on. So feel free to book a reading with me at comspirit.com. If you like this video, please like, share it, comment, all that good stuff. I definitely appreciate you even just watching it and supporting me. So thanks for being here. Okay, Libra. So we're starting the year off with a Mars retrograde. And it's retrograde in Leo, but it will very quickly re-enter Cancer as a part of that retrograde. Now, and we'll spend most of its time there. It'll stay there until about I want to say April 18th. Yeah, April 18th. Um, but it will still be going back over the path of which it was retrograde when it does that. So we actually will really feel this all the way until like May or June. So I think it characterizes really like that first half of the year. Now these houses for you rule the 11th and the 10th houses. So it starts off technically in your 11th house. This suggests to me that you could be dealing with some conflicts around friendships or reconnecting with people. So some of you guys might be trying to reconnect actually with a network of some kind or feel motivated to make new connections, build up in your community or something along these lines. I think a lot of you guys need to look out for frenemies though during this time, okay? Especially like that really beginning of the year and then again around like April or May. Because when Mars goes through our 11th house, a lot of times we experience frenemies, people that don't really have the best intentions for us, but come across as friends. So you might find that people are not as supportive of you as you would like, or maybe the opinion of you doesn't seem as positive as it once did during those short little time frames. Like I said, that's like the really beginning of the year there in January. And then I think you'll see this pop up again in around April, especially like mid to late April. Um, but with that said, this really can bring like some interesting power dynamics too. I feel like a lot of you guys are going to be expanding your networks or are trying to uh, get new business contacts. During this time. It would be a good time for you actually to try to do that, believe it or not, and just understand that some of these are going to come up a little bit more empty-handed, a little more negative. Because here's the thing, this same Mars is going into an opposition with Pluto several times throughout this transit because it hits it, retrogrades hits it again, and then it hits it again on the way out. So, on when Pluto and Mars are in opposition with each other, this suggests a lot of power dynamic conflicts actually going on, but they're usually very subversive in nature. So just really be aware of the partnerships that you are starting to create this year. We're going to come back to this when we talk about Neptune and Saturn moving into your seventh house here, because I think a lot of you guys are going to get swindled a little bit this year. So if you have, and I'm talking like totally new partnerships, um, though this could play a role in current partnerships, but let's get into that again when we get to Neptune here. I want to get through our retrogrades first, but I do just want to say in regards to this that um I think you have a big risk this year of getting into connections which don't work out well for you. So just be really aware of the people that you're interacting with because I think a lot of you guys are going to have people that just want to be in your energy and want to be like you or take from you or take advantage of you or something like that. So try not to take it too personally and remember that a lot of these things are just business, like that it really should just be business. Um, honestly. Some of you guys are even getting into like online arguments here, honestly, since the 11th house can also be associated with the internet. So maybe some of you are getting negative feedback online or experiencing friends just kind of like falling out on you or not really being there for you. Obviously, it depends on your individual chart how that will really play out, but what's for sure is there is this like motivation that you have to really start building your career. I think a lot of Libras have really felt held back or frustrated in their career in recent times because you had Pluto going through your fourth house, which aspects the 10th of career here for quite a while, actually. So a lot of you guys have been trying to reinvent yourselves and figure out like a good path forward. And I think you're really just hitting ahead with this at the beginning of 2025, where you're just like, I am going to make this happen. No matter what, I don't care what this takes. Like, we are going to do it this year. And you are going to do it this year. I do see some really great transits for you on that second half of the year here. This first half of the year with Mars going through here, though, I think you are, again, just really like motivated and active and just really want to make your business or your career excel and move into new spaces. Um, as well. This could be a good time for you to revisit maybe like some old projects or jobs that you were working on. So if you did have maybe like a business idea for a while, but you let it sort of fizzle out or something like that, this could be a good time for you to try to maybe reconnect with some of the people that were a part of that project, that were a part of the networking that you did there, or just bring those conversations back up so that you can kind of be inspired and take things in a new direction. I think for a lot of you guys, you're not going to be taking those people with you, frankly, honestly. Like, I think that in your journey of really exploring that with these people, you're going to sort of remember why it didn't really work with them the first time, or you'll just hit a roadblock in some way there. However, it still could be helpful for you to do it because it will get you back into the energy of it and having it start to manifest in your outer life. Okay. So Mars does actually really well in the 10th house. So it's spending a majority. You're one of the better, honestly, you're one of the better off signs when it comes to this retrograde because it is in a good house here. And that's a big deal because it's a gnarly retrograde because it's debilitated. It's in its worst sign here in Cancer. And so a lot of people have these pent up feelings that are building into kind of a point of frustration. Um, and making them feel like they need to defend themselves or defend their family or what's important to them. We're going to see that on a wide scale. And for you, this is presenting itself in your career. So the way that you are handling a lot of that energetic tension that we're all experiencing is like, okay, I'm ready to like go get my bag. And I get it, honestly. That's probably is one of the best uses of this energy. So I applaud you. Um, really, because you're going to be the most likely to produce very like tangible results, despite the fact that it is a pretty hectic year. It is a very busy year. Every single sign is going through a major shift this year because we have many of the outer planets are shifting signs next year. So we are shifting chapters this year big time. And so everyone is going through that. And some people are sort of handling that better than others. And I think with Libra, you guys are handling it from this space of like, I gotta do what I gotta do. I gotta get out. I gotta walk these streets. You know what I mean? And I respect that. I think that that's going to pay off really well for you in the last half of the year because we have Jupiter entering this house then. So I'll come back to that at that time as well. I also want to talk about the Venus retrograde though and get through kind of all the personal planet retrogrades. So yes, we do have both Mars and Venus retrograding this year. That's not typical. Usually it's only one or the other. So a lot of people are digging up old feelings and revisiting um themes and the important themes that they have moved on from. So this Venus retrograde is going to really actually technically be occurring from March 1st to April 12th. However, it is the beginning of starting with when Venus goes retrograde, it creates actually this cool star pattern. And so there's a so it just switched into a new star pattern, and this is the beginning of that. So this is a more significant Venus retrograde generally, and therefore we can say that although it's only happening between that time frame, it's going to be felt pretty much the entire year, especially the first part of the year, but really that whole year is going to be impacting. So it's a very significant transit overall. Um, Now it's going to start out in Aries and then switch back into Pisces, which rules your seventh and sixth houses. So I think a lot of you guys are overcoming sort of people pleasing behaviors here. Okay. A lot of you guys have gone through really big transformations, even recently, honestly, because you've had South Node going through your sign for the last 1.5 years, which is about to switch for your, and I honestly think you're gonna be thankful for that. Because when nodes go through our signs like this, that means all the eclipses happen on on your axis, on your sign and your sister sign. Um, we go when that happens, we go through major shifts. So Libras have been going through major shifts over the past couple of years, especially in regards to how they identify themselves, who they think they really are. A lot of you guys have probably been making major changes to your home lives. as well, or major shifts in your family or domestic life because you had Pluto going through your fourth for some time here. Um, but and so now I think you're a little you're in this space now of kind of understand, kind of not having the energy for people pleasing anymore. I guess that's where I'm going with this. Like, I think you've done a lot of it. Like, honestly, like, I think you've gone through a lot of shifts and changes, and Libra can really suffer from people pleasing generally. It can be a really interesting placement to have, especially like a Libra sun, because the sun is debilitated in Libra. So it has a harder time uh knowing what it wants for itself, like expressing its own, like true self-expression. A lot of Libra suns are more so experiencing themselves through other people. And obviously that puts them at a bit of a disadvantage. And so one of the ways that that can manifest is codependency or people pleasing behaviors and things like that. Obviously, this all depends on your individual natal chart. This is not to say that every single Libra out there is like this. And for the record, I love Libra. That's one of my favorite signs ever. So this is not coming from a bad place at all. But I will say that with everything that you have been through, I feel like you're at this point now where you're just like, I don't really want to people please anymore. Like at this point, maybe if it's costing me this much, if I have to twist and bend into the situation this hard, then maybe it's just not for me. I feel like some of you guys are going to be coming to that sort of that sort of energy here in the spring. So like March, April is when you're starting to really um reassess different partnerships and different relationships in your life. Um, and starting to stand up for yourself a little bit more. So for some of you guys, you're going to be hearing back from maybe like an old partner. Maybe this is an old business partner. This could be an old relationship that you've been in. A lot of you guys will probably hear back from an old relationship here around April, um, or even March, honestly. But it'll be a very interesting experience for you. Again, this really depends on your individual natal chart. In some cases, it could turn out where you do reconnect with this person you had a relationship with, but then you kind of remember why this wasn't really the best fit over time. And then you start kind of rethinking, like, is this really right for me? And why not? And why did I think it was? And how do I adjust for that next time? Do you see what I mean? So that's really the best way to use the energy, right? Is think about what worked about this and what did not, and then allow yourself to move on. There's plenty of fish in the sea. Okay. There are plenty of other business partners out there for you. There are plenty of other people out there that you won't need to feel like you have to sacrifice so much for. I think a lot of you guys are in situations where you don't feel like your needs are being met somehow, honestly. Um, and this isn't to say like for all of you that you have a problem with your significant other, by the way, either. This could also be that you're watching your significant other struggle. Maybe you feel like they're a little directionless or um just confused about where they are going or it's you're drifting away from you in some way. Like I can see you guys all going through that, especially like I said, around like April, May. Okay. Um, and it can feel like this is just, yeah, more restrictive towards you somehow. Like I feel like partnerships become a little heavier for you when Saturn moves into this house, but we'll talk about that a little bit more when Saturn gets there. As far as this Venus retrograde though, it does retrograde back into your sixth house. So for a lot of you, this is about business partnerships, I think actually. For a lot of you guys, this is also about connecting maybe with an old coworker or old employee. Um, or something along those lines as well. A lot of you guys are, yeah, like I said, in or are going to start ending up in situations which are, I feel like a lot of Libras have been feeling like they're grinding a lot too because they've had Saturn go through their sixth house here for a while. Let's go ahead and jump into Saturn since I'm talking about it so much. The last thing I'll say about Venus though, is that Venus also rules your eighth house here and your first. So I feel like be very aware that some of these situations that are coming up might have a psychological reason within you. So I could see this a couple ways, right? Like this could be a situation where maybe that person deserves a little bit more compassion from you because there's good reason why they can't really deliver for you, and there's actually a psychological blockage or fear within you that you're projecting onto the situation unknowingly. I could see it play out that way. I could also see it play out in a way of I really feel like I need to make this relationship work or make this person like me because of a psychological blockage of an abandonment wound or needing to be accepted by somebody or something like that. And this is why I'm chasing a situation of burning myself out in a situation that is not really for me actually at the end of the day. And that's the reason it's so hard. You know what I mean? And again, translate that to business partnerships too. Maybe that's about a that same situation for a business partnership. You get what I mean? Obviously, this all depends individually, but that's sort of the general theme that I see. So I think a lot of you guys this year are kind of in a headspace generally of like who owes what and what's fair and stuff like that. Um, I do want to quickly say that we also have three Mercury retrogrades this year. That's nothing to freak out about. We have three Mercury retrogrades every year. These ones are going to be primarily in fire signs, which rule your third, seventh, and 11th houses. Those are very social houses as well. You do seem like you're pretty social this year, Libra. Like you're getting yourself out there a lot more in general. I feel like you were somewhat busy last year too, though, but last year I feel like you were busy in a more running around like a chicken with his head cut off kind of way. I hate that saying. I wish I hadn't just used that. But you know what I'm talking about. I feel like in this last year, it was a little bit more like, what's happening? Ah. And this year you're more with purpose. I feel like you're feeling like you're making more progress. So some of you guys might throughout the year, yeah, revisit. I feel like a lot of you guys are going to be reconnecting with old maybe clients. This could be a good year for you to try to revive any kind of like client base or connect with old coworkers or maybe people that you worked with on a project in the past. Like all of these things, revive an old project maybe. A lot of you guys might be starting a podcast maybe or something, or starting some sort of a group or a club, or you would benefit from doing so. You can find a lot of opportunities by doing all of this, both business wise as well as otherwise, as well as like just for your personal life, honestly. So I do see a lot of you guys being a lot more social and busy than you have been in the past. All right, let's get into Saturn and Neptune here finally. So Saturn and Neptune are going to enter Aries this year together, which is interesting. So Neptune enters first. Neptune will enter on March 30th, Saturn on May 24th. They meet up in what's called a conjunction there on January 15th as well. And what else is interesting is that they actually retrograde out of this sign and re-enter it together again in 2026. So what you're going to experience in this regard is coming back up in 2026, okay? Just to be honest with you. So for you guys, you've had Neptune and Saturn already going through your sixth house for some time. Neptune or Saturn has been there for at least a year. And Neptune's been there much longer, actually. So this energy that you'll see at the very beginning of the year is just the last tail end of that transit and is not going to be surprising to you. Um, these two going through your sixth house has really made a lot of Libras feel like they have to grind a lot for work and also very unsure about work, like feeling a little directionless somehow. Some of you guys might have some sense of confusion around it for whatever reason. I feel like a lot of you guys maybe were not sure about what kind of work you wanted to do, maybe, or what direction you wanted to take it, or maybe you had difficult relationships with clients as well. I could see that being one manifestation of it. This is also the house of health. So a lot of you guys maybe have been involved in dealing with health, even like mental health here. So for some of you, you may have been, I think for some of you, this might be a difficult experience that has been kind of giving you a realization that you need to make a change. And this change might be about maybe the kind of work that you do, or this change could also be about your health and well-being. So for some of you guys, maybe you get some bad news. Maybe you got some bad news from a doctor that like you can't drink anymore or something. Or for others, this might be that like your job just gets so bad and ridiculous that you have to bail on it. Something along those lines. Okay. Um, this does put a lot of general stress on your daily routines as well. So I think a lot of you guys have also been in this place. Maybe you've gone through some major shifts over the past few years, especially two, um, and that have left you sort of disoriented. Do you know what I mean? I can see that being part of this too. And so you're just almost in this general like what is the best routine for me? What is the best way to go about my daily life? Like maybe you feel like that has even changed a lot over this time period, and you've been trying to kind of get your feet under you in that regard. But overall, this is going to shift. We're gonna feel these two enter, like I said, into your seventh house. That's going to be really interesting for you, honestly, because the seventh house is the house of partnership. And we talked about partnership a little bit early on in here as well. The dispositor is also that retrograde Mars, which is in your 10th. So for a lot of you, this is business related. This doesn't necessarily have to just be romantic relationships. So definitely keep an open mind there, because I do see business being pretty highlighted for you this year. So I think that's the case for a lot of you too. So when Neptune and Saturn go through our seventh, so Saturn can really bring a restrictive force when it comes to relationships. So relationships can just feel a little bit more slow moving or binding or heavy. I have seen this be associated with people getting into more serious relationships, but most of the time, this means that you are restricted in relationships, meaning that you have a trouble getting into a relationship, actually. So some Libras might have trouble getting someone to commit, maybe, or you might feel like a partner has just been kind of like out of touch. Maybe you have a partner, maybe you are married and but your partner's just been really busy or kind of distant or um hard to reach for whatever reason, right? Could see it play out that way. Or it could be that you're watching your partner kind of struggle or just go through like some difficulties, and so you're trying to be there for them through that. I can see it present that way also. Um, but overall, I feel like you feel like your needs are not being met. That's definitely something that I see pretty clearly. I think that you feel like you can't really rely on other people. And this isn't really that new for you, unfortunately. You've gone through a lot of major transits for quite some time. That's sort of communicates that to me. Namely, Uranus through the eighth, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But all in all, I think that these two entering this house is going to feel like you can't really rely on anybody else. Maybe you feel like people are being really critical on you too, like demanding or harsh. I could see it playing out like that also, um, as well. I also think that some of this could be that they genuinely cannot help you for some reason. So I feel like Neptune here is kind of asking you to have compassion for the situation. Like these people might not be able to for whatever reason. Maybe they're going through something very difficult themselves, for example, or they just simply don't have the resources to do it. Um, I could see that also. So try to keep an open mind. But on the other hand, some of it will be people who are just really actually shady and horrible and like swindle you out of money or something. So this is again always going to depend on your individual natal chart. You're going to get a bit of both, obviously. Some of them are going to be more legitimate situations, and other ones are going to be more the not so legitimate situations. So I think you're going to experience both, honestly, but you're going to be left either way, sort of feeling like, okay, well, like now what? Like, what do I do now? And I think that is a big part of what your experience is going to be with that transit. Interesting. Let's come back to this one. I wanna get to a couple others that stand out to me as well. So we also do have, just to get into a bit of like kind of better news for you, we have Jupiter switching signs as well, and that's going to be really awesome for you. So Jupiter starts out in Gemini. He was in Gemini most of 2024 already. Um, but he'll be moving into Cancer in June. So, Gemini rules your ninth house. And so, even since last year, a lot of Libras have had some really great opportunities to travel or expand their consciousness somehow. Some of you maybe have taken some courses, or maybe you had opportunities to teach or speak on some events. You may find that people have been more interested in what you have to say or in your teachings lately as well here. Um, Jupiter in the ninth is just such a fun energy. Love Jupiter in the ninth. I mean, it's really feels at home here in the ninth house since of the because of the Sagittarius connection with the ninth, um, as well. So I think this has been probably a mostly good experience for most of you. I will say that Jupiter has been squaring Saturn throughout a lot of this transit actually. So, although you are getting a lot of opportunities to expand, maybe like take classes or go on trips and stuff like that, you have had your own hurdles around that as well. So Jupiter's trying to expand in this area, and then Saturn's coming in and like restricting it and being like, okay, but did you do your paperwork? Oh, okay, but what about this and that? Or like restricting your job. Maybe some, for example, maybe some of you moved, but then you felt a restriction on like the job front or issues around visas, is one example. Or maybe some of you were able to go on a trip and then got denied maybe you didn't get denied the visa, but maybe there was some sort of like drama around that. For example, these are just examples of how I could see this play out, just so you can get an idea of what I'm getting at here. You're going to experience this a little bit through the beginning of the year as well, but this is going to start to shift, um, especially around May and June. So in June, Jupiter enters Cancer here, and at the very end of May, Saturn also switches signs. So these two are going to square off again throughout the year. And that is really interesting. So I feel like, okay, so first of all, when Jupiter goes into your 10th house, this can bring around a lot of really great career possibilities for you. Okay. So that last half of the year, a lot of you guys are going to really start to see some good progress and leeway, when it comes to your job, career, reputation, stuff like that. Also, if you've had paperwork that has been kind of like stuck, like hasn't pushed through, this could get better around June as well for you. Even May when Saturn starts to switch out of this sign. For some of you, this again depends on your individual natal chart, but I think that the last half of the year, many of you guys will start to see more progress around any kind of like outstanding, like maybe schoolwork or like if you were waiting to hear back about I don't know, getting into a school or I always think of visas because I travel so much, but that's an example. You know what I mean? So any kind of like paperwork like that, government related stuff or school related, I think you are going to see that progress here at the end of next year. Um, I also think there's a big opportunity that a lot of you guys might move here during the year as well, especially around the summer here. Is what I see for most of you. Again, depends on your individual natal charts for the exact month here, but I see that opportunity throughout the year. So many of you guys will move during this year. Um, Now Jupiter in the ninth is a really good time for you to beef up any kind of like education that you can do to excel when it goes into Cancer. So that first part of the year is the best time for you to take a course on something or get an extra certification of some kind, or also promote yourself. The first part of the year could be a good time for you to really focus on like newsletters or building courses or promoting yourself on social media, etc., etc. Um, as well. Um, but yeah, anything that you can do to line yourself up well, because the ninth house is favorable for all of those things. So I can see a lot of you guys might get some sort of extra certification or something there in the first part of the year, and then boom, and it elevates you there at the end of the year. You're gonna get Jupiter through the 10th through a lot of 2026 also. So um set your foundation up great now so that it pays off as well as it can later. Okay. Here's the thing about astrology. All of this is me telling you the weather, right? Like the energetics of what is going to be present. You want to utilize this energy to the best of your ability though, because you can Yes, this energy is going to play out whether you like it or not, but how favorable it is to you is really about what you want. And that's something that we have to keep in mind. Like a lot of times I talk with to people about readings, and they'll say like, is this favorable or not favorable? Listen, you might not agree with the universe on what is considered favorable. Do you see what I mean? Like there are a lot of things that we as individual, because of our individual experience, view as favorable, but there might be many other people out there that don't view that as favorable. So the universe is more um impartial than that. That's the word I'm looking for. Okay. And so we want to tell the universe how we want that energy to be spent. Do you see what I mean? So that's why I say like use the opportunity while Jupiter's in the ninth to expand yourself somehow. Maybe you update your CV or resume, or maybe you can imagine. I think a lot of you already know what it is that I'm getting at here and have some example in your life of what you can do with that. But definitely do that in the beginning of the year because it'll really boost you well at the end of the year here. Um, I see a lot of career development and opportunities for you once Jupiter goes into Cancer, especially. So the last part of the year here. But it is interesting that that same Jupiter is going to square off with Saturn a bunch, right? So it's going to square off with Saturn out of the seventh house now, though, throughout the last half of that year. So the big challenge to the career growth that you're going to see has to do with partnerships. So, for example, maybe you get some really great client, but some difficulties around a business partnership really causes issues with it. Or maybe you get this really great job, but you're kind of held back because of a spouse's situation or something like that. Or you see what I mean? Like you can see how these could play out. So the concepts that are generally around like the agreements that you make, you want to be really clear this year, really clear, especially at the end of the year, that last half of the year on what you want out of a partnership. Now, you need to be clear in that for yourself, and you need to be clear about the people that you're around. Do they have those qualities? Like, is this actually a good partner? And then you also need to be clear about with that person, right? Of this is what I want out of this or expect out of this. Because when Neptune starts going through the seventh, it's going to give you a lot of kind of more shady deals, okay? Or a lot of, and it, and sometimes it might not be that the person is outright lying to you. This could also be that there are misunderstandings here. And so that's why I say you want to be really clear. Make the paperwork very clear. Like, honestly, any kind of business partnership you get in at all, make sure there's some sort of paperwork involved. That way it's like, it's very laid out and obvious in black and white of like what we're doing. Um, I don't think that's necessarily a lot of Libra's typical approach, because you guys are such sweethearts and want to be in partnerships with people. But definitely be very aware of that. Now, Jupiter in this case does rule your third as well. I think a lot of you guys are going to increase your financial situation this year as well, especially, of course, that last half there also. Speaking of which, something that might help you with that is Uranus. Uranus is still in Taurus for much of the year. He's been in Taurus since 2018, but he is going to briefly visit Gemini here between I want to say July and November. Yep, July and November. So when he does visit this sign, this will give us a taste of what that full transit is going to be like because Uranus usually takes about 7 years to go through a sign, and he's going to fully enter Gemini for good in 2026 for the next 7 years. So for most of this year, though, you are still going to experience it that first half of the year in the eighth house. Which you've already been doing since 2018. Now, that can bring a lot of ups and downs to you financially, Libra. Okay, so you've probably been going through a lot of shifts and changes financially since 2018. Some of you guys definitely switched jobs or something like that. Maybe some of you retired as well. Some of you guys have also seen a lot of ups and downs with your spouse's income if you're married, or a lot of unexpected shifts when it comes to other people's money, meaning maybe some of you guys got a unexpected inheritance, or maybe some of you guys may have had tension around money with others as well. You may have lost, maybe some of you may have downsized or lost a lot of stuff as well. I could see that. But all in all, Uranus through the eighth house is pretty intense, honestly. Since 2018, you probably have really gotten into like the psychological side of things. I honestly think you're gonna like it a lot more when it goes into the ninth. Because Uranus in the eighth can definitely bring up a lot of interesting psychological experiences. You may have had some of your fears really exposed to you during this time frame, since like I said, like 2018. Um, as well. We are going through that Venus retrograde too, from the sixth, from the seventh to the sixth. So again, a lot of you guys really are in this headspace of like, who can I really trust? Maybe some of you feel like there's just been some really big shifts in your life when it comes to who you rely on or how you rely on other people. And this is what's brought up maybe some of these deep psychological things for you. You went through Pluto through your fourth for a long time there. You went from with Pluto through your fourth from 2008 until last year, meaning that a lot of you guys really did go through some deep transformations. Maybe you had some deep psychological. A lot of you guys have gone through an awakening, maybe of some kind, during this time frame, especially since 2018, um, as well. A lot of you guys have really made some big shifts and shocking changes to your life and dug up deep psychological junk that may have been very buried or related to um, your ancestry or genealogy or like where you come from or your home life. I think like your idea of home has changed and shifted a lot during this time frame. So it's been a really intense time for a lot of Libras. Now, Uranus is going to, like I said, shift into Gemini there starting in July. So you're going to start to see what it's like in your ninth house instead. That is going to bring about more a question around your beliefs and direction in life. The ninth house is the house of the voice of God, which sounds very epic. So I think in the eighth house, that was more almost like, I don't want to say like a dark night of the soul. I don't know that it was necessarily that, it's so that horrible for all of you. Hopefully, I hope not. But if you said it was, I would believe you. Looking at this. But now it's like you're coming out of that dark night of the soul into the ninth house with it. And now you want to make changes to your actual direction that are aligned with what you saw about yourself in the eighth house. So the eighth house is really about who we are when we lose everything. What then? What do we have then? That's what the eighth house is ultimately about. So you really had that exposed to you since 2018 for whatever reason. Again, some of you guys might have moved and downsized and lost a lot of stuff, or maybe some of you guys just like broke away from some family. Maybe some of you guys just really had to like face some deep inner difficulties or trauma, et cetera, right? Like you get the idea. And during that process, I think you've really learned a lot about who you really are underneath, like at the end of the day. You know what I mean? I think you kind of rediscovered some things about yourself and who you really are during that time frame. And now here, especially by July forward, but even the beginning of the year, but especially in the summer on, um, you are really putting that out there more. You're now saying, I think a lot of you have already made some major shifts and moves in response to what I'm talking about, but you're going to take this even farther, okay? During this time frame. So a lot of you guys are going to question your general beliefs, by the way, and direction in life at the end of next year. Yet again. A lot of you guys may move. Again, this supports a move. I do see that for you guys, especially there at the end, like mid to end of the year for most of you. Some of you guys may just be connecting with something that is foreign in nature somehow, if not moving. So maybe delving into a new spiritual topic. You may be studying something again. I see that opportunity at the beginning of the year with Jupiter. At the beginning of the year, I think what you study could help your career here. But at the end of the year, you seem like you want to study something even really different or unusual. That could be astrology for some of you. Uranus is the planet of astrology, but for others, that maybe this is just something that's very unexpected or something that that other people wouldn't think that you were into, or maybe it's a holistic study like Reiki or something like that, or it could be scientific in nature as well. But I do see you guys getting some opportunities to delve into studies a lot throughout the year in general. I think a lot of you guys are also connecting with some really unusual, interesting people. Here also, you might meet a guru or a teacher there on the last half of the year as well, or just somebody that is offbeat and eccentric but has a really unique point of view that aligns with your general beliefs or gets you sort of thinking um more as well. So some of you guys are meeting like a teacher here. This also, I do feel like this is a good time to promote yourself too. That last half of the year is really banger for that, especially. Like I do think a lot of you guys are going to find that you are more popular or more interesting to people, or that people do want to work with you. So generally throughout the year, but especially that last half of the year, really like publish yourself somehow, okay? So maybe for some of you that's literally writing. I think for most of you though, this is more like speaking somehow. Maybe this is like a podcast is always what comes to mind, but think of some variation of that, however that applies to you. But this is definitely social, working with people, talking to people. Um, Maybe you run like a group therapy or something, you know what I mean? Or retreats for some of you. That could be a retreat, definitely. But just use your imagination and what applies to what you do, obviously. But I think that you have a really great opportunity there at the end of the year, especially that last half of the year, to promote yourself in a really big way. We also have Pluto switching signs. See what I mean? There's so much going on. Pluto is switching signs as well. Well, Pluto already switched signs, actually. Sorry. Pluto switched signs there in 2024 for good. He first visited Aquarius in 2023, though. But now he's fully in Aquarius. He will be there all year. He will be there for, in fact, for 17 years. So it's going to be a while. He represents a very long transit, okay, a long unfolding and transformation that you will go through in the area in which he touches. But right now, this year, it is still significant because he's hitting the point where the Grand Conjunction happened. So the Grand Conjunction was when Jupiter and Saturn um, meet up in the sky, which they do every 20 years. However, this last one was especially significant because it started a new element cycle. Which sets off a 200-year long cycle. But suffice it to say, wherever Aquarius lands is an area of life in which you are going to unfold some grand purpose over the course of 20 years. So for Libras, that's the fifth house. This is the house of children, the house of businesses, the house of romance as well, but also just like our hobbies. I think for a lot of Libras, you guys have a grand purpose that will be unfolding regarding a business. Maybe you have a business that you are working on or launching here. Or this might be just some sort of like similar project, or maybe even a nonprofit for some of you guys. Um, or just some major project even that ends up becoming very significant that you're on. It can play out all of those ways depending on your natal chart, right? Um, but Pluto is really triggering that this year, and he's really asking you to step it up when it comes to whatever that is. So you probably started it in 2020 or got the ideas for it around that time. Okay. And now over the course of this last almost year, you've been facing real challenges with it where you're being kind of like asked to put your money where your mouth is. Like, okay, well go ahead and do the thing, like pay up, buddy. And I think Pluto is here really pushing you and challenging you to make that better and to continue to push it forward. So Pluto going through this house is going to be really significant in that sense. A lot of you guys will be able to this year find a new way to make money, maybe especially on something that is like a hobby for you, maybe something you did as a child or you're just naturally talented or good at. As well, or something that just gives you that truly like joyful feeling, like that you would do it, you know, that cheesy question that people ask, like if you had endless money, what would you do then? Whatever your answer was to that question, that's the thing. That's the thing that you are being pushed to do that could be a part of some grand purpose actually that's unfolding here. That you are going to be really asked to like empower and step up and do. And other people are going to challenge this somewhat throughout the year. Like you are going to get some feedback, I think, from maybe an online community or from like your friends um that isn't positive. Like I think there are a lot of people that are going to be kind of naysayers about what you're doing and and I think you're going to be a little hurt and surprised by this. Maybe you're not totally surprised. Some of you guys might be expecting this, but I think it's pretty likely that yeah, whatever it is that you are being asked to unfold for some reason, the groups that you were a part of, like your old networks and your old friends, things that you aligned yourself to before, they are not with it. Like they are like grossed out. Like it gives them the ick for some reason. I suspect this is because maybe those were not really your friends. That they were, you know, Libra, you guys have been through a lot of transits lately that has sort of aligned you, not recently, but like long ago. A lot of Libras have been in situations in which they developed friendships and networks. I say this with love, but kind of inauthentically. Like because Libra is really good at getting people to kind of do what they want. That sounds really bad. But they can kind of emulate and mirror back to people what they want to see and what they want to hear. And so they can use this to kind of get into any group. Like they're a chameleon. They can really fit in anywhere. Um, and this has maybe caused situations in which you've aligned yourselves to networks and groups that actually really are not for you and aren't your friends. And those people are going to be it's going to be real obvious to you this year who that is. Okay. I think that a lot of you guys are going to feel like you have haters or like people are going to see like what it is that you're working on online. Maybe, like, for example, maybe you are like, I've always been, even since a child, I've always been a good painter. I'm just naturally talented at it, but you never did anything with it for whatever reason. And now this grand conjunction has happened and you're being called to do that as some kind of business. And then you've already been like working on that and developing that. And now you launch that fully and you post about it all online and all your old friends are like, ew, you do that now? Oh, wow, I didn't know that you had fallen off that hard. Like that's crazy. Okay, sorry. Are you doing okay? You know, like I'm getting that vibe. Okay, that's just like one example of how I could see this play out. So I just want to warn you about that and have you and help you see that. Um, that's a sign you're going in the right direction, baby. Okay, that's just like when you're playing a video game. If you're playing a video game, you know what I mean, and you start hitting all the enemies, you know you're going the right way. You know you're going the right way. You have a grand purpose that needs to be unfolded here, and this challenge is a part of that journey, okay? It's an important part of that journey for some reason. Some of you guys might have tension with children here as well, though, okay? To be honest, with Pluto. So for some of you guys, so if you do have children, like pay special attention to them and to their situation. Because they might be going through something themselves. So some of you guys might have maybe some tensions with kids in general. For some of you guys, this could be about like a custody battle or something, frankly. For others, though, this could be about n- um maybe you might just have a kid that has to go through something major, right? Like maybe they don't feel like they fit in or like struggling to like be comfortable where they're at or something like that. Or maybe they have some sort of major uh I don't know, just thing that they might be dealing with at school or something, right? For some of you guys, it'll be that they have to maybe go, like I could see like maybe having to go to like speech therapy or something, or you know what I mean? Like, or get a tutor or something like that. It's kind of giving that. So I think for a lot of you guys, there is some special attention that should be made for like children, during this time. Also, if you're a single Libra, this could definitely lead to a lot of tensions in the dating world for you. Could be spicy though. Could definitely be a fun, spicy, uh, interaction coming up for you. However, it could also get really toxic, so just be really aware of that. If you are already coupled, this could just bring an intensity then to the romantic aspect of your relationship. So that could actually maybe be a fun thing for a lot of married Libras here as well. That might be I kind of honestly I overall like that for you just because I we already talked about what Saturn and Neptune are like through the seventh, and I think a lot of you guys kind of feel like you've had a hard time or like really having someone be there for you and like feeling like they're like kind of drifting apart. I feel like a lot of you do still feel that, so it's interesting that you feel both. So it's interesting that you feel both. I think although you feel like maybe the partner is restricted or going through it or something, you're still like really into them here, is the way that I would take it. The last thing we'll talk about, so that this is such a long video, you guys, is the North Node. So North Node is switching signs as well. No, North Node is entering Pisces on January 29th here. Where it will be all year. The nodes take about a year and a half to travel through a sign. So Pisces rules your sixth house. So that's the house of basically your health and well-being. Since the South Node will be in this 12th here, I think a lot of Libras are actually focusing a lot on their mental health during this year. You might find that you are working a lot more or you are busy here with North Node, but it's in a more positive sense. Last year, when it was like all Saturn, that was just like you were just grinding. Like it was hard for you to really get work at all, or the work that you did was a grind, so on and so forth. This will get better for a lot of you guys here with North Node. North Node will bring in probably some new um job opportunities for a lot of you, definitely. I definitely see job opportunities for like all of you guys this year. So if that's something you want to do, the energy is definitely there for it. Um, but with South Node going through your 12th, I feel like a lot of you guys are dealing with something that is mental health related. So maybe some of you guys learn something that is like hidden. Maybe you learn about a secret here as well, or maybe you reconnect with somebody here, or maybe some of you guys might just be getting deep into your psychology. Maybe some of you guys are like going to a therapist and dealing with some like maybe for some of you when Saturn and Neptune were going through here, some obvious like big health issue you became very aware of some like health issue, and now here with South Node going through the 12th and North Node going through the 6th, you're maybe enact doing something about it. Maybe you're starting to like go to like a rehab or therapy, or you know what I mean? Maybe you're just starting to get more of a focus on health and well-being generally is what I see here for you. Definitely avoid any kind of like escapism, okay? Because with South Node through the 12, sometimes we do just want to run away from some of like our problems, and demands. And I can understand why you would be feeling that way, being that you already went through Saturn through six, so you're already just, I don't know, gone through it um already. This will be an easier year for you though than last year, honestly. I think especially because you're just gonna see a lot more progress when it comes to career, and if career doesn't resonate for you, like maybe you don't have one, like you're retired or something, then maybe this is more right about your reputation or like your ability to socialize. I think a lot of Libras were like kind of almost a little depressed last year, honestly. Um, and I see this year that I can definitely see that picking up for you this year. So I honestly think you're overall going to be happy. The one thing that you're probably not going to be happy about is the relationship stuff. That one, it still seems a little dicey for you. So if you're single, you might stay single, um, here, to be honest. If you're married, um, some of you guys will break up. I think most of you guys will stay though. Here, to be honest, I think you'll just feel a sense of distance from your partner or something like that here, or feel like they're going through a hard time or something. And so this is something you kind of already been going through. I feel like a lot of you guys have been in sort of a quest of like trying to find um partnerships that are more satisfying for you. And I don't see that being completely fulfilled for you this year, unfortunately. But I do see a lot of opportunities for you generally, especially when it comes to this is a great year for you to like launch a business or um ask for a raise or get a promotion or something like that. So overall, a really successful year for you. You're honestly one of the best off of all the signs, if I'm being real with you. So I hope this video was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and share if you watched it all the way through. I hope that means you liked it. Of course, you can always book a reading with me at calmspirit.com. That's like my last name, Kalm, spirit.com. And I wish you guys the best year, honestly. I really do. And let me know how it goes. Good luck.